I've always been a great believer in the dictum, talking slowly makes you sound like you think slowly. And I'm hereby demonstrating it, thereby pretty much proving it. Well, it's not scientific proof, but if it changes your thinking on the matter to the point where you're convinced that I'm right, then that's as good as proving something. So consider that done, and we can move on. Anyway, welcome to the second in the season of Into Your Head, temporarily daily summer shows.
Are you going into your head?
We've a lot to get on with today. Items that need to be attended to, issues that need to be addressed, topics. Oh, topics. We've got lots and lots of topics, and also I must remember to take the clothes out of the washing machine and put them on the clothes lying in the garden. Notice I call it a garden, unlike you foreigners. A lot of you foreigners who listen to this refer to your garden as a yard. A yard is not the same as a garden. A yard is a fucking area, a dull, depressing area of concrete that you park your old car on, and you sit there, you look at it, you think, oh, this would be an appropriate place to leave my wheelie bins, just far enough away from the house to not stink up the place, and just far enough from nature to not look inappropriate. You don't want to put bins in a garden, because a garden is a proper place with plants and a lawn. A yard, on the other hand, is just a little square of concrete in a place where there's no garden, where you've allowed nature, where you've pretty much banned nature, because you need room for non-nature things, non-natural things such as cars and trucks and bins and other crap. A lot of people would have a yard and a garden. A yard would be the bit at the side where you walk out through it, maybe to get to the garage, and it's basically just an area. It's basically just an extension of your driveway. It's probably too far around the back for you to drive. Maybe now I'm being too fixed in my definition of this, but I lived in a house once as a child that had a yard and a front garden and a back garden, and the yard was very separate, I can tell you. You'd go out your back door, which was technically in fact in that house, the back door was facing the front. It was facing the same direction that the front of the house faced, but it was still on the back wing of the house, where you'd go out the back door and you'd be facing the front, but you wouldn't be in the front, because there was a garage between the yard and the front garden, and the yard was at the side. So you'd go down some steps into the yard, and your yard would be there. It had the boiler house off it, had the bins, had a place where you do stuff like, for example, carpentry or anything messy. And then you go further down, and you go down into your back garden, which was an entirely different kettle of fish. The back garden had stuff growing in it. So anyway, no, Americans, a yard is not the same as a garden. And if you've been homeownery enough to hold on a minute, I'll just reply to this text now. There you go. No, if you've been responsible enough or creative enough to create a garden in the back of your house, and do yourself the justice of referring to it as a garden and not a frigging yard. If you call it a yard, then you're basically telling the world that all you've got there is space that you've done nothing with. Not that there's anything wrong with a yard. A yard isn't as important a part of your house as the toilet. It's just not as beautiful as a garden. So let's keep the two separate. Anyway, on with the show. Once upon a time, there was a dog. Pronounced. Oh no, not pronounced. Well, pronounced as if spelt D-O-G-U-E. Now you could also, of course, pronounce it the way it's spelt. It would just be dog, but that would be rather boring and bog standard. You don't want the language should be flowery and majestic and interesting and romantic and exciting. You don't just go dog. A dog is the most boring word word in the world. Although I do realise to many of you the word dog conjures up one of your favourite pets of all time, the dog, the humble dog, or the not so, well, humble, but beautiful because of its humility or something, I don't know. But no, I don't have any dogs, I have cats. So no, to me, if you say dog, it's just dog. It means nothing to me, it's just a word, it's just dog. So I prefer to say dog. I say, once upon a time there was a dog. And I do realise you're probably thinking, that sounds the same to me. But no, I'm saying this into a big fancy microphone before everything's being compressed and converted into MP3. And I'm listening to it on big headphones. And to me, as I say dog, it sounds absolutely fucking fantastic on here. Maybe someday I'll figure out how to make a big fancy HD edition of this whole show available somewhere. But no, until then, you'll just have to take my word for it. It sounds great in my ears when I say it like that. Dog. And I've also noticed it sounds much better when I've had more caffeine and energy drinks. Sometimes sounds good when I have a cold, but everything else sounds bad when I have a cold. That's the problem. You can't just say dog 100 times and fill up an episode like that, especially during the summer. People don't expect a temporarily daily summer show to have you having a cold on it. So no, let's save the dog thing for when I have a cold in October and I'm doing a bog standard normal show. Anyway, as I say, once upon a time there was a dog, and the dog was walking along the street minding his own business, which in this case was a pet sitting business. The dog had a pet sitting business. Now, I would know what you're thinking there. You're thinking there was probably a scam. He'd get himself adopted by some new family every couple of days, and then he'd get the family, when they went away on holidays, to hire his own dog sitting business, and he'd pocket the profits. But no, dogs don't have profits, so that's bollocks. And it's also highly suspicious of you. Stop assuming the worst of everybody. You're assuming the worst of a fictional dog about which I've told you absolutely nothing so far, and you've already decided he's a criminal. So have a bit of keep an open mind. I know what you're thinking there. You're thinking, oh, I am keeping an open mind. I'm keeping my mind open to the possibility that this dog is one of the biggest criminal fraudsters ever known to man. Which I suppose is possible. But no, you have to keep your mind open in all directions. There's no point just having a hole open in one direction of your mind, because that defeats the purpose. You need to have it open on all sides. You need a hole in the front of your head, and a hole in the back of your head, and a hole in each side. This is all metaphorical, of course. And a hole up on top, and a hole on the bottom of your head. Well, you already have that. You have a hole in the bottom of your skull where everything connects through your torso, and you have a hole in the front of your head, although it's covered up by your face mostly. You have holes in the front of your head though. You have your eye sockets, and you have your nose socket, and you have now the nose thing, that can be misleading, because to the human eye, the human nose appears to have two holes in it, but no, that's just a covering. Underneath that is just one big nose hole in your skull, so it's just one hole with basically a big curtain over it for purely cosmetic reasons. The nose is just a cosmetic curtain that fits over a big hole opening in the front of your skull. Frankly, I think the hole in the front of your skull looks a lot more attractive than the two holes in your nostrils. I've always found nostrils off-putting. I don't like to look at them. I think I prefer to look at the naked hole in the skull underneath. But of course, then you wouldn't have a nose. It would be problematic. Maybe the nose isn't all about cosmetics, as I claimed. I don't know. Anyway, two dogs walk into a bar. One of the dogs goes straight up to the bar counter and says, "Woof." And the man behind the bar says, "Is that the word woof, or is it the sound woof?" And the dog says, oh, it's both. You can't have one with the out the other. It's the word woof if you write it down, but it's the sound woof when you say it orally. That's why we have written language and oral language. It's the same words work both ways. And the man behind the bar says, no, I mean, are you barking or are you saying the word woof? And the dog says, I'm afraid I've lost you there. And the man behind the bar says, oh, good, that's good. I was just checking that you were a normal dog and not some sort of weird, over-intelligent dog extraterrestrial hybrid, which I would find a bit intimidating and I wouldn't want to have a conversation with. And the dog says, oh, I see what you mean. And the man behind the bar says, do you? That's a bit worrying. And the dog says, oh, I forgive, never mind that. What I meant was I don't understand the word you're saying. And the man behind the bar says, oh, that's good. And the dog says, so where are we going with this? And the man behind the bar says, we're going deep down under. Isn't that a Jamiroquai song? I'm probably getting ahead of myself by saying, isn't that a Jamiroquai song, when I haven't even finished quoting a line of it yet. And it's an obscure track as well. But no, we'll see if I can perform it and see if it'll jog your memory. If you've heard that particular Jamiroquai album, I'm going deeper underground. I'm going deeper underground. There's too much trouble in this town. Now the represents a thudding deep bass sound, a bass guitar sound. You probably don't recognise it at all, do you? And the dog says, no, I don't. And the man behind the bar says, I wasn't talking to you. I wasn't even talking. That was the narrator talking to his listeners. And the dog says, oh. And then the dog says, I'm surprised he didn't use his harmonica. And the man behind the bar says he was about to, and then he realised it's a thudding bass sound. To recreate that on a harmonica would be highly inaccurate, or it sounds something like this. I'm going deeper underground. There's too much trouble in this town. Which admittedly sounds quite good, but it doesn't sound anything like a Jamiroquai song, and it wouldn't help jog the listener's memory, even if the listener is familiar with that Jamiroquai album. And the dog says, I suppose you have a point there. And the barman says, of course I have a point. I'm being voiced by the narrator. If I can't have a point on his behalf, then who the hell can't? And the dog says, good point. And the man behind the bar says, indeed it is.
You're listening to
the Into Your Head podcast
from Ireland with your humble proprietor, Neal.
Follow Neal at twitter.com/intoyourheadpod and pretend to like him at facebook.com/intoyourheadpodcast.
Monkey nuts. That's what they call them. They call them big steaming, shit-eating, piss-piling, fan operating, heavy equipment not operating, printer in standby. I wonder which one is the right. I want to unplug that printer from the mains, but there's a power strip up there, and I can't for the life of me remember which one relates to the printer. And if I pull the wrong one, this whole fucking computer system will go off. Go off in mid-flow. I can tell you then we'll have a problem. You don't want to be unplugging things while you're recording a podcast, because then you mess up your podcast. And I can tell you, if you mess up a podcast, that's you're basically contributing to the downfall of human civilization. If you have a podcast and something goes wrong with an episode of it, podcasts are very important. The world needs them, and if I mess up an episode of a podcast, or it's delayed or lost. So there's a man out there looking at his car. He's sitting on the curb, examining his car very closely for some reason. I wonder what he's doing. Well, I've just said what he's doing. I wonder why I'm wondering what he's doing when I can clearly see. This is the typical human being now. Me, I go around basically in a daze, staring at things all day and saying, explaining in full detail what I'm staring at, and then going, oh, I wonder what I'm looking at, because I'm half asleep, not paying attention, not even paying attention to what I'm paying attention to. Fucking ridiculous. So MTV generation. We go around drugged up on beats and sounds. We go around with headphones jammed into our lugs all day. We've either too much coffee on us or too much milk. I don't. Oh, sometimes I think last night I drank too much milk because I woke up groggy. I found it difficult to wake up. Milk. I don't know if you people realise if you drink too much milk at bedtime and in an attempt to go asleep, you wake up groggy. You think, Christ, I wish I hadn't gone so heavy on the milk last night. For Christ's sake, me of the past, will you get a grip and stop fucking pouring milk into yourself last thing at night? You're perfectly capable of going to sleep without half a gallon of milk poured down your gullet. For Christ's sake, there's no point having all these schemes to help you to go to sleep faster if you're not going to be able to wake up properly in the morning. It's defeating the purpose. The whole point of going asleep is to wake up refreshed, not to wake up non-refreshed. Jesus Christ, self of the... I say I'm talking to the me of the past. I'm talking to the me of the future as well. The me from around 10 o'clock tonight. I hope you're listening too. I'm listening to the me of the past and the me of the future. So both of you pay attention and listen up and listen good. Or listen well, whatever the proper grammatical thing is. Don't be correcting me on my grammar until you've got your milk drinking under control. Have some fucking humility, you cunt. Anyway, good morning.
Sit, Rhodey, sit.
Good cat.